Hi everyone, just a quick one before we get into this episode. This was filmed a few weeks ago and we've only just got round to uploading it now, which is why there is no discussion around Ipswich players, Leicester City players. While we're talking about Luton, Sheffield United, we all thought they'd be going down. As we recorded this episode, they were not yet down. So do bear that in mind that this was filmed quite a while ago. Hello and welcome to the Claret and Blue podcast. I'm your host Dan Rolinson, joined by John Townley, once again at Poddymore Heath. Now, I saw this idea on a sister podcast of ours, Andrew Musgrove's Newcastle United podcast, who has a lot of good ideas, to be fair, that I'm going to steal, and thought, I fancy a bit of that for Claret and Blue. So, we've picked out one realistic signing, for the audio listeners, I'm doing air quotes, and one dream signing from each of the other 19 Premier League football clubs.
Current Premier League clubs. Disclaimer.
This is for fun. This is not a suggestion of Villa's real-life transfer business. We are not professing to be in the know here that if John suggests Alfie Doughty from Luton, that there is something in that and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Suggesting cheaper players does not mean that Villa are in trouble with PSR. Okay, this is for fun.
Yes.
Let's crack on. So, John, you've got a list. Your list is the realistic. My list is basically, who's Everton's best player? Yeah. We'll have him.
Yeah,
okay?
my list is realistic because I was thinking, like, when we asked Rob, Rob, can you make us a crest? And he was like, no, I can't do it because I'm going to have to spend weeks doing it to make it. Mine's not like that, but in the same sense, like, I couldn't say certain players because I'm like, oh yeah, but would we have this player? Or, I've taken it too literally.
That's fine. I'm here for
that's my disclaimer, I suppose.
I'm here for light relief, probably. I'll look through some of your lists.
I sent you the list and I thought, well, it's not great. We need to think of who would be a dream signing, I suppose, if money didn't matter in the world.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. So we're going to do this club by club. We are going to do. You sent me your list in league table order, but this won't come out before the next round of games are being played, so that league table order will be wrong. So we're going to do alphabetical order.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
It might not come out for a few weeks though.
That's fine. Yeah.
So we're going to go through these in alphabetical order. I'm also going to put the club's badge that we're talking about on screen somewhere. So if you just want to fast forward to the Man City section, you can find it easily. Okay. So we'll start with Arsenal. A, obviously. John, who have you gone for?
All right, I've got. I need to explain that when I go through the squads, again, I'm literally looking at it and thinking, well, this player can't play with this player. We don't need him. This player would cost too much. This player's too old. This player's. So I've gone with Reece Nelson.
Okay.
There are players who I'd rather sign for Aston Villa than Reece Nelson, but as I'm going to keep saying in this video, it's one that is probably the most realistic. I think we were linked with him, weren't we, before?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any truth in that. Obviously, Emery's worked with him before. A younger player, a good player as well, a player that will probably need more game time. I think he signed a new deal recently. Wanted to probably just keep his value. I think he was running out of contracts. So, I went with Reece Nelson as my kind of realistic. If Villa were to sign an Arsenal player, this is probably the one that would happen.
Got to the Europa Conference League final against Jose Mourinho's Roma with Feyenoord. So it's a bit of European experience for us.
Nice.
I'll see what you've done there. I like that. I went with two, and one of them is absolutely not realistic.
One of them I really like, and I wish we signed him when we had the opportunity to.
Okay, so that one I assume... Well, actually, that could be either of them. So we're recording this just after Arsenal have battered Chelsea, where Leandro Trossard scored.
Yeah.
And that's who I wrote down, because I think he would be a great acquisition for us. Realistic? Absolutely not. Arsenal would want a lot of money for him. He only joined in the summer, etc., etc.
And he wouldn't come to Villa because...
No, probably not, but I like him.
Yeah.
My other pick was Emile Smith-Rowe, which probably does border more on the realistic because we were linked with him before. However, I think we've outgrown him, and I don't think that is a great signing.
And that's why I said Reece Nelson ahead of Smith-Rowe.
Yeah.
Trossard was the player that I really wanted to sign him when we just got promoted. Brighton bought him instead of us. I think it's like 21 million or something. I don't exactly know where we were in terms of finance, whether we had the budget to do that or whether we signed someone like Trezeguet instead. I can't remember now. That was like, I don't know how many years ago was that? 5 years ago? Wow, it was 5 years ago. Obviously, we wanted Rashica after that, so I don't know whether we planned to sign him instead of Trossard. I've no idea. But Trossard's an excellent player and, good recruitment from Arsenal. It wasn't even too expensive, I don't think. Yeah, I went with Nelson ahead of Smith-Rowe just because I think you're right, Dan. I think we've probably outgrown him a bit. I don't think he gets an R11.
No.
the wages, the transfer fee, I don't think it would be massive, but there's probably better value elsewhere. He's also quite injury prone these days, isn't he? So, which is a shame because he was such a good player when he kind of first broke onto the scene.
Yeah. Bournemouth next.
Yeah.
Who have you gone for?
I have 2 players on my list, and I really didn't know which one to pick.
I've got 2 on mine.
I think one of them is probably more realistic than the other because Alex Scott has just joined them, so that would be a harder deal to do. You know, obviously he'd love to come to Villa, I'm pretty certain, but it costs more money than what we were probably willing to pay, etc. So I've gone with Antoine Semenyo.
Oh, okay, yeah, good player.
Who I think he's a very good player. He caused loads of problems for Villa in December. Caused other teams problems as well. He's powerful. He's got good feet, an eye for goal. Very creative. Can play either side. A very good player.
Yeah, Semenyo, great player. I also had Alex Scott on my list. Probably is venturing more into the dream signing more so than realistic, I would say, just because I think he would cost a lot of money, and maybe a Liverpool or an Arsenal. I think he's that level, to be honest, which, to be fair, isn't a million miles away from us,
so really.
As we know. This is probably a little bit of recency bias, but again, probably slightly realistic just because it's a young player. Ilyas Zabani.
Nice.
I went for, obviously, very impressive. Played well against us, as you said, in the game the other week. Ollie Watkins taught him a lesson, though, but has been a good player this season, and again, a bit of squad depth at centre half.
Only 21 as well.
21 is a good age, wouldn't cost the world, but obviously, it's a prized asset to Bournemouth and would cost. I mean, every player costs a fair amount these days, but you're not talking 50 odd million. I don't think. Player I like, but. Yeah, Sabani, Scott and Semenyo, 3 good players there from a side that,
they have.
to be fair, Bournemouth have got a good selection of players.
I was Jacob at the Athletic. He covered Bournemouth for a period of time, so he kind of knows the inner workings of the club quite well. And speaking to him during the Villa game, looking around the team, it's probably really good players there. Like, the recruitment's been brilliant, and don't spend a whole lot of money either, considering the players that they've got. So there are no concerns over PSR. They've got really sellable assets as well, like Kirkes, the left back's clearly a good player as well. The midfielders are solid. So very well built team. They had a few players out, Sinistera and a couple of others. I can't quite remember now, but clearly got the recruitment nailed on. So fair play to Bournemouth.
Brentford is next on the list. A team that again has a lot of good players, I think. A team that is underperforming this year on their recent expectations, that you'd always expect them to be kind of pushing a mid-table side. They probably will go on to finish nearer mid-table than relegation in the end, I think, but have flirted with the bottom 3 this year and have underperformed. I'll go Brian Mbeumo first.
Nice.
Which I think is a dream signing. I think he's a great player. Would cost a lot. Brentford are not going to want to sell him. If they are to sell Tony, they're definitely going to want to hold on to Mbeumo. I didn't go for Tony because I don't like him, despite being a good goal scorer. So Mbeumo was my pick. Who's your realistic shout?
My realistic shout was Aaron Hickey.
Okay, another player that we've been linked with in years gone by. Yeah,
versatile fullback. I think he had quite a bad injury towards the start of the season, but he was kind of coming into his own at that point. He had a decent season last season and he was really flourishing. I think Man City were also interested, so definitely a player who can make a step up in the coming years. He can play left and right fullback, and he's a good player. He's young as well, and he'd fit into the squad very, very seamlessly, I think.
Another club that is known for their good recruitment, Brighton. I'll let you go first this time.
Okay, this is one of the better players that I've got on my list, so
don't spoil it.
Listen to Dan's dream, not mine. I went with Purvis Estepinian, left back. I feel like there's a deal to be done.
There's a theme here with your positions as well.
Yeah, and this is it. Like, there's no point in buying a striker, is there, when we have one of the best in the world? I went with Estepinian because firstly he's a brilliant player, but I don't know, this season he's been in and out of the team. Brighton, we know their model, they like to sell and recruit, and I feel like Estepinian's probably done his bit at Brighton now. You're probably looking for a move elsewhere. I think he's played under Emery before, I think, at Villarreal.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised. Believe he did. Yeah, with De Zerbi possibly leaving Brighton, there's probably a bit of change to be done there, and we know that they sell players every year. So maybe a deal to be done there. If Villa wanted the left back, they'd look at him.
No, I like that one. 26 years old. Did play under Emery at Villarreal.
Yeah.
Joined in 2020 on a 7-year contract for 14.9 million, according to Wikipedia, and got to the Champions League semi-finals and won the Europa League. So
Nice.
yes, was
Yeah,
there.
he's done all.
Was there when Emery was there. So reuniting with Unai Emery at left back.
Yeah,
Possibly. I like that
it
one.
wouldn't come cheap, but also a deal Villa could probably do if they manoeuvre,
Yeah.
should we say,
Yeah.
in areas.
I've gone for Julio Enciso.
Yeah.
A fantastic player. That goal, obviously, against Man City was last season, I think. The Puskas goal of the year, or whatever it's called, would be after a lot of money. Brighton for him, undoubtedly. Absolutely not suggesting it's a realistic signing at all, but I have picked, like I said, he's good.
Yeah.
Let's have him.
Needs to be
Just to
balanced.
jazz this up a little bit. Yeah, he's a fantastic player, isn't he?
Yeah, for sure.
20 years old.
Yeah, last
Unbelievable.
season he had a terrific campaign, and when Brighton sign those types of players, you think, right, for the first season, I'm aware of him. Second season, he's going to be one of the best players.
Yeah, third
to
season,
exist.
he signs for Liverpool.
Yeah, it would be a lot of money, and I think he had a cruciate this season. I'm not too sure, but he missed basically all of the season through injury. Which again, for Brighton, that's a huge blow for them, considering they're just going to Europe and their season's kind of dwindled a little bit. But yeah, and Enciso's a top player and someone that I'd be surprised that if he's still at Bournemouth in a few years and doesn't go for huge money elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay, we get to our first club now where I feel like the format goes out the window a little bit, and that's Burnley. So I said to you when we were preparing this, or I was preparing my list, there's a few clubs where, like the elite clubs, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, you think, well, none of those players are going to leave for Villa, so it's not realistic. And if they do, it's a lot of money, so it's probably even too much for a dream signing, so they're difficult to pick.
Yeah.
There's those middling clubs that we just discussed, Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford, where there is realistic shouts and there's dream shouts. For Burnley, any kind of realistic shouts, I don't think get into our squad anyway, so kind of what's the point? And dream signings, again, there's no one of any quality where you go, well, we have to have him.
Yeah.
So I've gone with an absolute cop-out answer and gone for Aaron Ramsey. Bring him home, release clause, etc.
Yeah, it's probably about right. On Ramsey, it was a real shame that he had that, again, a cruciate. Missing for a long period of time. It could have been longer considering the injury he had, but shame for him that his first season away from Villa's been difficult, and hopefully next year he can, when he returns, I think he's going to still be missing the first few months of the campaign, but hopefully he can kind of kick on. I went with Luka Kolyosho, the winger. Again, slim pickings here, but he's looked bright. Watch Burnley, which hasn't been a whole lot. But I remember when Burnley played the first game against City, the first game of the season, that Friday night, and I'm looking around the team and thinking, I genuinely don't know these players. Like, apart from your classic, like Darrow Shea or whatever, there were some players I've never heard of in my life. And, I live and breathe football sort of thing. A lot of people do, and they're probably with me and thinking, who the hell is Lyle Foster? Like, who's this, who's that? No disrespect to them, it's still well and good me saying that now, but I've never heard of them, and I know this says a lot more about me than them, of course. But I just thought they're going to struggle here.
I've had a season in the Premier League. This
is going to take some effort for a group of players who have come from, random clubs in Europe. There's no experience. It's basically what I was trying to say, because I've never heard of them. You would have heard of them if they played in the Championship, let alone Premier League. I went with Kolyosho because I think he's a decent player. I think he's Italian and he's done all right for himself this season. Next,
that's
not a whole lot to say.
Chelsea next.
Oh, interesting. Chelsea. They've got a lot of players. I went with, and again, this has realistic. God. Right, this makes me. I went with Tro Chalobah. Again, because you got to package it all up.
Come on then, package it.
A lot of these players are going to have huge wages. They either don't get in the Villa team anyway, so I'd rather have a player who would be playing backup than Cucurella, who I don't want. Well, you know what, Cucurella would probably do an okay job for us. I don't know, because a lot of players go to Chelsea and just underperform because it's Chelsea. Cucurella is brilliant at Brighton, so I'm not saying he's a poor player. Just an example of a player that I wouldn't take the risk on. Whereas I think Chalobah as a backup at least would, he'd do a job, again, quite versatile. Wouldn't have massive wages. minimal transfer fee really, and yeah, kind of like some of these clubs, it's like I'm avoiding those guys, so I'll take the guys that will be less of an issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So would I sign some of them? No, because of either their attitude probably stinks, or they're on a massive wage. We've seen what they're like, those Chelsea players, goodness me.
When I said earlier there was different categories with the clubs, there was a third category of
Chelsea
and Man United. Well, I look around both squads and think, to be honest, I don't really fancy any of you lot. Yeah. I went Malo Gusto.
Yeah.
Because we need a right back.
Yeah, and he's a good player.
He's a good player. Again, not the most amazing pick in there. Enzo Fernandez dream signing, £100 million player. You probably pick something like that, but I just thought I wouldn't associate myself with any of these players from Chelsea.
It's difficult to, because they've underperformed so badly. Clearly not taking on what Poch says or asks them to do. Maybe you'd say Gallagher, but Gallagher's not leaving, I don't think, for Villa anyway.
A lot of money when he goes as well.
Well, they might need to sell him, so it might not be as much as what it could be.
Homegrown
Tottenham,
tax, though.
I know, but they need to sell him for that reason. I.e. Tottenham are interested.
I think they're looking at 60-odd million for him.
What do you think? I think Tottenham will probably get him for like 40. I think. Which it's crazy because he's their captain. He wants to stay, but PSR. So, yeah. But, I went with Chalobah, and there's not a whole lot of players that I'd want from Chelsea anyway, even if we could afford them and their wages and bring them in.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on to Crystal Palace next. Another club that I think that you could have a few picks here for for good players. I like your pick. Again, spoiler alert for the podcast, I have seen your list. But talk me through yours.
To be honest, I think it's unrealistic.
Yeah,
it's unrealistic, but Palace is a weird one because I wouldn't want any of their players. I wouldn't want half of the squad because I just don't think they're good enough for Villa, full stop. But then the other half going to be either a lot of money or... So I went with, unrealistic, but Adam Wharton, just because he's been sensational since he's joined Palace, like almost transformational for what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it was either that or I said Elise or Eze, who we're not going to be able to afford.
Who
100 million. I don't know how much Elise would be, but a lot of money. So I went with Wharton because I was kind of just in the middle. I didn't want...
Definitely not realistic. He only signed just last year for, is it 20 million, I think?
18 to 20 million, I think, yeah.
So they'd be looking for 35, 40 at bare minimum.
Yeah, or they just wouldn't sell him. Palace is a different one to do. It's difficult one to do, sorry. I mean, again, I could say like Joachim Andersen, because I think he's a good player.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
But again, we've got Mings, Torres, Carlos.
Chalobah.
Unless we sell players, then maybe bring in Anderson, but then is he going to sit on the bench? Probably not, so...
I went Elise.
Okay. Cheers, yeah.
Toss up between Elise and Eze. Yeah. Either or. Both fantastic players. Both players that will probably end up at a Liverpool or an Arsenal for 65, 70 odd million. Crystal Palace fans will probably think they're worth more than that. But again, an interesting category of club where a lot of the players are not good enough for Villa and a few that are just so unrealistic it's not worth speaking about. Although I'll say that, but then people are going to say things like, well, if Liverpool can attract them, why can't Villa? But I just think it's
But we're basing it on a Villa going to spend 80 million quid on a player. No, they're not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everton next. I'll go with my pick first. Again, a lot of dross in Everton's side as I look through it. For mine, it was dream signing, and I was thinking even then I'm not massively convinced by any of these.
I presume you've gone with...
Who do you think I've gone for?
I've seen your list, but I forgot. Is it presume Branthwaite?
No, I thought that was slightly out of reach.
Oh yeah, but your list is just...
Well, yeah, I know, but even then I thought... Okay. I remember when we did the Everton preview and their journalist was like, he'll go to Real Madrid for 100 million. So I was thinking, okay, maybe.
Well, yeah,
I shouldn't even go that far.
And you've got Torres anyway.
Amadou Onana.
Of course, yeah. That would make better. Yeah, again, probably too expensive, but certainly...
A good player on a bad side, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And... Again, a player that would probably love to come to Villa, to be honest. I mean, I know he's...
with Arsenal.
He's kind of pledged his loyalty to Everton previously and rejected teams like Chelsea, but I think if he got sent, you would. But then if a team like Villa came calling and they had the opportunity to sign those players for that money, those players would leave because Villa will hopefully be playing in the Champions League. Yeah,
but you're right. You look through it. The way I did this was went to every club's website and went through their squad list. And I scrolled down it and I was like... I got down to like his goalkeepers at the top. I got down to strikers. I was like, I won't pick any of them.
Yeah, so that's why I went with Nathan Patterson.
Yeah,
because I didn't want any of the others. Versatile. Move on.
Okay. Fulham next.
Fulham.
Again, I think a couple of players to pick out that are having decent seasons. João Paulinho.
Yeah.
I think is the obvious Fulham pick. Again, I did my list by going, who's their best player? Yes, please.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Paulinho, we need another midfield addition, somebody to cover for us.
Yeah, dream.
Imagine, I'm not saying he would just be a backup player, but imagine if he was the one who had to fill in for Kamara for these last couple of months. We'd still be right up there.
Christ, I don't think we could get away with having 2 on the books.
No.
I think Tottenham like him, so I wouldn't be surprised if he went there. Probably looking at 50 million or so. Bayern Munich wanted him and they had him, and then didn't on the last day of the window. So, yeah,
there's no chance he's at Fulham next season.
No, I don't think so. I went with Andres Pereira.
Oh yeah.
Again, you know, don't know how much he's going to be costing, but
not bad.
And if we need him, you know, I think he's a very good player, but whether he fits in at Villa, I'm not too sure. I think he.
See a bit of the Buendia role.
Yeah, and probably mixes a bit with Tielemans in that advanced role. So again, we're kind of going through the teams here. Not everyone's going to be perfect, but that's the player I thought. I was thinking, Adebayo or whatever, but again, centre backs, we've got them. So most of my list is full backs that can be versatile. So yeah, I went with Pereira.
We're heading into a difficult period here of alphabetical clubs, Liverpool to Newcastle. Liverpool's tough. You know, you're going through this going, none of these are going to leave Villa for Liverpool, and the ones that probably aren't good enough for where Villa want to get to. So I went Quansah.
Quansah, yeah,
which
sorry.
is a good young player, something for us to develop,
yeah.
But again, it's not going to happen.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I went with Conor Bradley, the right back.
Okay, similar reasons.
Again, I don't think would happen. I think, he's more than happy at Liverpool.
Quansah and Quansah playing together?
Quansah, yeah. On Bradley, though, I would still go for him, by the way. This is actually one that I would, if I was, I'd actually ask the question, like, is he what price are we talking? If it was 20 million, then I'd maybe look at it, genuinely. I think he's a brilliant player. Got a lot of room for growth as well, but I don't think Liverpool would want to part with him because they don't need to. Depending on what the price is, though, I'd definitely ask the question because you never know. Like, we've done this before with Emi Martinez and Arsenal said 20.
True,
and we probably thought, holy, all right, sound, we'll give you 25. You know, we didn't, but, you know, we're willing to pay, you know, over the odds, should we say. So, yeah, Conor Bradley's a player I really rate, but I don't see Liverpool letting him go anyway.
No. Okay, Man City next. Again, same thing applies. A lot of good players not going to leave.
Yeah, my answer is a cop-out, so...
all right, I'll let you go first then.
I went with...
Mine is, to be fair.
The lone player at another club. I'd rather save him because he's not playing at a good club. I have 2 options, to be fair. I went with either James McAtee, who was a good player, playing for Sheffield United, who are rotten. But
is he not your Sheffield United pick?
Well, this is it. I've got down to them and I thought, damn it. Yeah, James McAtee I like. I think he's a very good player. And I went with Sergio Gomez as well. There's kind of 2 options, left back, Spanish. Another player that we've been interested in previously. So can I say Sergio Gomez and then give away my Sheffield United player?
If you want, yeah.
Yeah, okay. James McAtee for Sheffield United.
Okay. Right. I had your Sheffield United player on my list anyway, so that's a nice way of doing it. Between Liverpool and Man City, there's Luton, of course, who I've forgotten about. So I've not picked a player from Luton because they're not on my list.
How disrespectful.
I know. How bad is that? Who's your pick for Luton?
I went with Alfie Doughty.
Okay, yeah.
Who I actually think is, again, very strong player, solid. Yeah, great delivery, works well on the left side, and yeah, he's not going to be the best player in the world.
I've also gone for Alfie Doughty.
Right.
So let's move on.
Yeah, let's skip that.
Man City is next, as we say. Difficult to pick somebody from Man City. You've picked your side of it. I've gone for a cop-out answer, Jack Grealish, and I put in brackets lol.
Okay.
Because it's an easy pick. There's talk of they'll listen to offers for him in the summer and all that kind of stuff, bring him home, etc. I don't think it would happen if there was a deal there to be done.
Again,
let's say
whenever I'm asked, it all depends on the money.
55 million.
What's his wage?
200 grand.
We can't afford 200 grand wage. Wage is already... I know I'm being super realistic, but I have to be. Our wage to turnover is it's mad. We have to cut down. So taking on Grealish as our best player by, I don't know how much, probably a few 10,000.
Yeah, not going to happen.
But what I would say on that, I don't know why people report about City listening to offers for Grealish. I think it comes from Football Insider, which I don't. Yeah. Why would they listen to offers for Grealish when he's key for them? Like, we kind of get caught up in, Grealish and City, is it working and stuff? Well, yeah, he is. He's a very good player for City.
Manchester United is up next. Another squad list that I looked through and thought, I would not want any of you at my football club. The obvious answer from it makes me feel sick even thinking about it just from an output perspective. A lot of people just go, Fernandes is good, let's have him, but no thank you. So I've gone, I don't know whether I'd call it realistic, but more achievable than, let's have Højlund because he's a good one for the future. Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah.
Need a right back, probably.
Yeah. I was thinking of saying Wan-Bissaka for mine as well. But I thought...
We've spoken about Wan-Bissaka before, haven't we, on this podcast?
The start of the season when we were doing our kind of picks, and I think you had Wan-Bissaka in yours, or I did. Did I?
I can't remember. I think we said he would be too much money.
I had Geertruida, a right back.
Oh, that was that episode. Yeah. Fancy spending. Yeah,
and Benjamin Andre, who scored our missed a penalty against Villa, but was excellent across the two legs, so it justifies my shout.
Yeah, didn't get through though, did he?
No, he didn't.
Stick that up, you Andre Gomez.
And I went to Scott McTominay.
Is that realistic? That's your most unrealistic one so far, I think.
You think?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think, well, depending on the managerial situation, I think somebody might still think he's got a role to play at Man United.
Yeah, possibly.
Or they'll ask for a lot of money for him.
Well, he's been linked with Newcastle.
He still pops up with goals and stuff.
I know he does, but he's also used on the bench. And for some reason, I don't think he's appreciated enough at United. I think he's a good player. He gets a lot of hate and stick. I think he's very useful. 30-40 million or so to Newcastle, I think, has kind of been touted around a lot recently. I don't think he wouldn't cost the world, and I know 30-40 million for a player that we don't particularly need. Again, like, would I sign Scott McTominay for 34 million? No, because we don't need him. But for this episode, I'm not going above that 40 million tag, because that would be, possibly like a record for us. But yeah, I like Scott McTominay, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did leave United, because he probably needs to start more games. And as you say, whoever comes in at United, I don't know if they will take to him, whoever that manager is. And by the way, on that, who would be the manager that goes to United?
No idea.
Would it be De Zerbi?
Oh.
It's almost like he's the one that's left. Because Slot's going, Amorim,
as I've recorded this, that Liverpool thing is changing all the time.
Slot seems to be the one, though. I think now they've had talks and it seems to be finalised in the next few days. But don't know. But I went McTominay because the rest of them, no.
Yeah, Newcastle United next again. Difficult.
This was difficult.
A lot of really good players that are not going to come to Newcastle. On Newcastle, actually, and whether Andrew Musgrove is still listening this far, or if he's only jumped to this bit because the Newcastle badge is up here somewhere, their version of this podcast, when they spoke about Villa, which was obviously right near the start, because we're was outrageous. Shall I share what they picked for their realistic signings for Villa?
Realistic, go on.
So they did theirs as just realistic all the way through. And to be fair, I listened to most of it, and a lot of them weren't realistic.
Yeah.
The guy that Andrew was with, Aaron, he picked 3, Andrew picked 1.
So 4 Villa players?
They spoke about 4 Villa players that they deemed to be realistic.
Okay.
First name was Emi Martinez.
What?
Second name was... No, the first name was Douglas Luiz. Saying Villa will probably have to let him go. 100 million probably it will be. Can we afford that? No, but I really like him. That was kind of the thing. I think they kind of knew. He's the one, but he's not going to come.
Okay.
Second was Martinez. The third was... these are all from Aaron. Was John McGinn.
Never.
And Andrew was like, realistic signings, John McGinn, their captain. That's like us selling Bruno, never going to happen. No. And then Andrews was Jacob Ramsey, which was the first one that was like, okay, there was talk in January whether there was anything in it or not. Villa may need to sell. He's homegrown. Like, that feels like, add 2 and 2 together, get 5. Like, it's
probably, are we about to embarrass ourselves and say
something there? No. I might, to be fair.
This was difficult though, because they've signed a lot of players recently, which means they're probably not going to leave, especially to Villa are better than Newcastle this season, but Newcastle would like to think they can compete more next year. Yeah.
So Jacob Ramsey, to be fair, yeah, there may be something in that. Like, I wasn't that aghast when that name was said, but the first thing I was like,
Martinez and McGinn.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
I've picked somebody that probably would be deemed unrealistic, and he's been injured this season. You correct me if I'm wrong. Harvey Barnes.
He has been injured, yeah.
Yeah, a player that I really like. There's an opportunity maybe at some stage when he left Leicester that should Villa be interested in that.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
Gone to Newcastle, done well, got injured. They got Gordon now. You know, they've got Bruno, Joe Linton, whatever, Isaac. A lot of good players that are not going to leave in a realistic or a dream scenario. So Harvey Barnes, kind of a post-injury recovery, come to Villa for a cut price fee. It felt like very, very slim pickings. As much as we just ripped the out of their podcast, they will be doing the same with ours. Probably.
Yeah, and it's like the Villa team as well. There's probably few players that Newcastle would either want or could afford.
Same situation,
could attract.
Yeah,
it's the same situation. Barnes was interested in a move to Villa, but we obviously had different ideas and priorities, should we say? I don't know, mate. Mine was difficult as well. I went with Elliot Anderson again, just because the other guys wouldn't be coming to Villa, and we, it's different reasons. So I went with Elliot Anderson because he was more realistic than the others. But would we go after him? Probably not. And would Newcastle sell? Probably not. So difficult. Yeah. Please don't grill us, Andrew. We have, but you're not allowed.
5 clubs left. If I've done the maths right, I will check in a second. Nottingham Forest. I think we've gone for the same player here.
I think so, yeah. This is kind of bordering on my budget, I suppose.
I think this is probably your most expensive one as well.
It would be, yeah. It would be, but Forest are in a pickle. So
True.
They might have to sell him. They obviously had to sell Johnson, which is, again, why we were looking at that as an opportunity. But
Morgan Gibbs-White, by the way.
Tottenham, of course, we didn't say. Morgan Gibbs-White, would probably cost a similar amount of money to what Johnson left for to join
Well,
Spurs.
they paid 30-odd million for him when he joined, and I remember, actually, it might have been more than that, close to 40, I think, and people being
I think with bonuses it goes to around, where it goes to the top.
It goes to 45, I think, possibly.
With bonuses,
that'll be
the fixed fee was less than that, so in the end it was decent business.
But people were like, bloody hell, he's not worth that when he left Wolves. I remember the kind of outrage that they're spending a lot of money for us, and that's a lot of money for him. But you look at it now,
recruitment though, in the end, they'd do that a million times again because he's kept them up last season. He's probably kept them up this. If they stay up, he's the one who's kept them up.
But they'll want 50 million for him at least.
Yeah, and you're looking at them and thinking, well, if they have to comply by a certain amount of time. We had the situation with they didn't sell Brennan Johnson at a period of time where they had to stay in line with PSR, and their argument was, but we could have got more money for him a few weeks later, and apparently they did. They can't really do that again because they're just going to get deducted more points. So I don't know what the situation is with Morgan Gibbs-White, but he'll have loads of suitors. And again, if Villa are going to be in a position to spend 40 to 45, whatever it may be, maybe break a record for Gibbs-White, I'm not sure. I'd love him at Villa. Love him because he gives so much, and he's so comes across as very passionate as well. Do you know what I mean? Like he gives it all, leaves nothing on the pitch, and that's the kind of player you need in your team. And by the way, what a footballer! Like technically, outrageously good, and very intelligent player. Someone who could thrive under Emery and become a £100 million player, I think. So I'd love him, but don't see it.
Good selection across the Forest squad, to be fair. Not
I like Murillo as well.
Murillo
He's a very good player.
I think he'll go
someone
for a
who
lot.
got twisted up by Leon Bailey, and I know a lot of Villa fans kind of to the Macau Forest fans are saying, "Oh, Murillo, are you sure?" But I've watched a lot of Forest games this season. He is a very good player.
Yeah, good footballer. Alanga was the one on my list as well. He's also done well this season. Taiwo up front is a great striker. A lot of good players for Forest, just not click for them at all. They've been woeful at times.
The squad's quite lopsided, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some very good players and then a lot of players who probably aren't at the level.
Set pieces are awful. Anyway, let's move on. This is not Garibaldi Red. Sheffield United next. You've done yours, haven't you, with McAtee for Sheffield United.
I did have a player I presume you've got, because
Gus Hamer.
Yeah,
good player, very good player. Left, obviously. Did he go to Sheffield United this window? In the summer, just gone.
In the summer from
Coventry. Yeah, good player. Coventry fans rave about him. He was excellent for them in the Championship. And my cop-out answer, again, a bit like Burnley, Cameron Archer, who's going to be coming back anyway. If they get relegated.
Yeah, when they're relegated, yeah.
Which is probably going to be like this weekend. Or could already have happened, because I don't know when this podcast is coming out. Tottenham next, again, feels a little bit like some of the others we've spoken about. Some players that are too good to talk about, they're not going to leave. Yeah. Other players that I think, well, we've already got better than them. So I've gone for, and again, dream signing, probably not the right word for this one. I don't even think I particularly rate him as much as I used to. Right. Yves Bissouma.
Okay.
I think would do a job for us, but he's not kind of the flashy player that I thought he was 2 years ago.
Weird one, isn't it? He plays League Brighton and they look after the player afterwards.
Still a good player, but not what I thought.
Yeah,
not the level I thought he'd be.
If you offered me Bissouma for a certain amount of money,
I'd
is that? Take him.
20 million.
I'd need to see Villa's books. I need to see the budget. You know what I mean? I need to see what we're working with. But I still think there's a very, very talented player there. And I know Tottenham fans give him a lot of stick these days because he's not quite working in Ange's system. But if you give a player to Unai Emery, I struggle to think how they wouldn't play well. You know what I mean? I'm that kind of mesmerised by it. So a player of Bissouma's talent that we saw at Brighton, because he was a terrific player. I struggle to see how he wouldn't work under a top coach. And I'm not saying Ange isn't, but he's very kind of grounded in his principles, isn't he? He wants one thing and that is it. So my pick was probably the most realistic I've done, and I would like it to happen as well, again for the right price, and I think it would be a good deal, or there's probably a deal to be done. It would be Lo Celso.
Yeah, been linked, hasn't he, a few times.
Played under Emery before, did very well under Emery, which again is obviously a good thing because you can come in straight away and click. Do the Pau Torres integration, just come in and be good straight away. For sure. And we do need depth in our team, especially for next season, whether we're in the Champions League or Europa League. We have 8 games to play in this league format. Hopefully we can carry into the knockouts, Champions League or Europa League. So we need a big squad, and I think Lo Celso would be just a shrewd acquisition if we can do it for the right money, and again hopefully we can. Don't know what his contract's saying, but I presume he hasn't signed a new one since he joined for like 50 million a few years ago.
Was it as much as that?
Yeah, big amount of money.
Don't remember that.
So a player I'd actually like Villa to sign anyway. So that's my Tottenham one.
West Ham up next. I remember messaging you when I was putting this list together of, again, great players. Kudos, Ward-Prowse,
I love this
Alvarez.
West Ham. I don't love West Ham.
Some great players in there.
The players they have, there's so much talent there.
Yeah, but
so much talent.
For this list, not going to work. And no. I think you look through the rest of the squad and go, we've got better than them, or they're just rubbish. I don't rate them.
Yeah.
I've gone Aguerd, centre-half.
Yeah, he was a good player.
He was a good player. Yeah. Again, a backup option similar to my Zabani shout from Bournemouth, probably.
Yeah.
Not particularly bothered, nothing much to say.
No, it's one of them.
If it's a dream sign, I can pick whoever.
Players behind.
Ward-Prowse, of course, but...
Players behind Torres, probably behind or with me, you know.
Yeah.
But, that West Ham, I've looked at West Ham team for years now and thought there's so many good players who I'd like Villa to have in that.
Is this why there's some... We're not going to get into this now. Is this why there's some frustration about David Moyes? But yes, there has to be. Like, they've done well, but they should be doing talent there. Should be doing more.
Jared Bowen isn't so good.
Bowen, of course, yeah.
Could have... What a player. Paquetá, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, Souček's a good player. Kufal I rate. There's so much there. The centre backs are strong, solid. The goalkeeper's good. Like, there's such a good team. But West Ham are enjoying the best years ever under David Moyes. So I think it's pretty disgraceful how they've treated him in the stands, if I'm being honest. But you know, you're open to your opinion. If you think he shouldn't be there after the season ends, and if you think it's come to an end, then fine, talk about it on TalkSport, but put banners out and stuff, I think it's wrong. Anyway, I went with, I think it was Ben Johnson. Again, versatile fullback. Not a whole lot to say there, but could come in and do a job for, again, I presume a minimal fee. We've seen this season that we could do with that versatility, so a couple of my players can play across that back line. Ben Hickey, Johnson, a couple of others. Chalobah could probably do a job, so so exciting, my list.
Talking of exciting, and some might not like this as our West Midlands rival, Wolves have got some good players to pick from, I thought, looking through their list. Again, they're probably one of these kind of nicer clubs to speak about in like the Bournemouth, Brentford bracket, that even their best players, I think Villa would have a chance of signing. And there's a lot of good players in these sides. I've actually got 3 on my list because I couldn't even narrow it down because I thought there's a few options. I've got 8 Nori,
Okay.
Kilman,
Oh,
or Neto.
Right, Neto is too expensive, but
It's dream time. I can do what I want.
I love Neto.
Neto's a great player. Injury problems this year, but
Yeah, he's dynamite, Neto.
yeah, great footballer. Yeah, you could see him at somewhere like Arsenal, I think.
They wanted him, didn't they, a few years ago? But I think injuries have kind of hampered him, and they've probably taken 20 million off his price. Because if he played every week, that is Gareth Bale, but without the outrageous compilations of goals. It is.
That's a shout.
I'm not saying he's good as Gareth Bale, by the way. I just mean he has that explosiveness. He is. He can play like that, if that makes sense. When they went to Tottenham, and Tottenham were playing that high line, good night. Like, I was speaking to the Wolves fans on the way back who, they were saying, like, we battered Spurs, not because we were outplaying them, but just because we kicked the ball forward and Neto could run.
Yeah.
Like, outrageously quick and, real threat for defenders. So, rate Neto very highly. I hope the player is, again, probably relatively unrealistic, to be honest, João Gomez, because I don't think it'd cost the world, again, probably towards the maximum of my budget, but a player who could definitely play at least in rotation for Villa. And I think, if we were to let go of a player, then he would come in and go some way to filling a hole or a void. So I went with him. Aït-Nouri is a good shout though. I like that.
Thanks, mate.
Definitely a player who's improved as well in recent years. He's very technical, which surprised me. He plays like a winger sometimes.
Yeah.
Plays a striker even at one point.
I wonder when we look at these clubs, I put all these in a similar bracket. Brentford, less so. Brighton, Bournemouth, Palace, Wolves. These clubs that are always going to be, you'd expect,
middle
10th to 15th, around there. Maybe one of them pushes on to Europe every so often. How many of these clubs, and this feels a little bit like Villa under the O'Neill era, and I don't like to be the guy that's like, let's pluck all their best players. But Wolves, are they going to be able to keep that nucleus of a squad together? There's 5 or 6 really talented players there. West Ham even to a lesser extent, when they've got so many kind of like, that's the core group of standout players and they're supplemented by some decent ones. It only takes a couple of those to leave, and Wolves are nowhere near it. Bournemouth are nowhere near it.
And this is where recruitment comes into play though, because Wolves have lost players before, Brentford will and have lost players, Brighton as well, but then they replenish it. So
Wolves lost a load of players in the summer, and many tipped them to be in the bottom 3.
The best player, yeah, exactly. So that's the point. It's all about how you recruit. And although we've spoken for 30-40 minutes, I would say that I don't want to sign any of these players, apart from maybe 2
on your list.
Yeah, on my list. Yeah, Lo Celso and maybe someone else. Go into Europe, scout there. Talk to Monchi. Don't listen to us.
Look in the Championship, where Morgan Rogers came from.
Yeah, Championship as well. Yeah, exactly. So, this video doesn't go by what exactly we want, and I'm looking forward in the summer to doing another one of our, I don't know, £100 million budget transfers or whatever. Maybe not 100 million. Maybe we should reduce it and make it a bit more complicated.
Let's call it a day, John, for this one. Thank you very much for your input, as always. A little bit of fun, as we said at the start. Disclaimer, this is not what Villa are going to do. We're not talking about FFP. We're not saying any of these signings are going to happen.
And my list wasn't fun.
No, it's just let's just have a chat about football for a bit, because why the hell not? So let us know your thoughts in the comments. As always, send us your predictions. Send us your suggestions for realistic players or dream players from all of the 19 clubs as well. Let's see what names you throw at us. That's it for this one. John, thanks for your time. Thanks everyone for watching or listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Claret and Blue.